Hey guys, it's the Spirited Traveler here, and today I'm going to be talking about home bars. More specifically, what a fully stocked home bar should look like. Now, before you ask, what does that mean? It depends. It varies from person to person, from household to household, because a home bar should reflect the taste of the person whose home you're visiting. So it's going to vary. Now, I do believe there are some essentials you should have on your bar at all times, regardless, but outside of that, it's going to vary. So I'll show you what my fully stocked home bar looks like. Well, technically my bar is not fully stocked. It's about 85%, but hey, it's good enough. It's basically three things missing from my bar right now. That makes me not consider it fully stocked right now, but it's still fully operable. I can still make quite a few gems on this baby, just based on what I have. So without further ado, let's go into it. But the first part of my bar is pretty much largely dedicated to making cocktails. I was finally able to score a set of scrappy bitters when I went to Seattle last year. So I have some cardamom there, lavender, grapefruit, chocolate. I've not done much with the chocolate, so I'm dedicating some time this fall to experiment with the chocolate bitters. Peach, and then I have the standard Old Faithful Angostura bitters. Then I also have some Pachud's bitters, and I know I'm probably not saying that right. I cannot do French accents for anything. I can't pronounce any of the words. But they were nice enough to send me a bottle. So I'm going to experiment with that and put some, and see what all I can come up with. But yeah, so I got my bitters there. I got my Liqueur cherries, which I absolutely love. They are so good, and you would never eat a maraschino cherry again after having a Liqueur. Still focusing on cocktail making, I have my jigger there. I actually do measure cocktails. Contrary to popular belief, I actually do measure out my cocktails. I don't just freehand every single thing. Look at my drawer. I have a couple of other essentials in here. I keep a muddler on hand. A couple of bottle openers or bottle toppers. This is just a small sample of my collection. I just keep these on the bar if I need to grab them if I'm entertaining. Have a couple of cocktail books in here. Some of my favorite recipes. You know what? This has been in my bar for probably close to 10 years now. One of my really good friends hand wrote these recipes out, ran across the street and gave them to me, and when I moved, I kept them because I still make the French gimlet. Like to this day, I still love it. So I have a couple of recipe books in here. And then this is one of my favorites. It's a standard Mr. Boston Fisher Bartender's Guide. That's right. I do love my strainer here for when I'm making cocktails that I'm not necessarily shaking, but I do need to strain the ice out, or if I'm using a bunch of herbs in the spring. Again, my bar varies from season to season. So in the spring, I use a lot of fresh herbs and things like that in my drink. So I don't necessarily always want those solids getting in my beverages. So I do strain those out. And of course, my handy dandy cocktail mixer. I have quite a few of these, but that's the one I use the most. Leaving the first section of my bar, which is dedicated to cocktail prep and display, we get into more of the working area of my bar. And again, I tend to have I think I have like 4 different types of main liquors that I like to keep on my bar. I like to keep certain white liquors on my bar. I like to keep at least a minimum amount of brown liquor on my bar. I'm not a heavy brown liquor drinker. I have a section dedicated to cordials and liqueurs because I do make a lot of cocktails, so I'm generally needing some cordials and liqueurs on hand to complete a cocktail. And then, sorry about that. And then my last row here, this is what I've deemed my international sections. Or let me give you a look at what white liquors I currently have on my bar. And so this is where you will see the first bottle of spirits that I'm missing. I currently have some vodka back there. Right now I have Svedka, but Svedka and or Tito's are what I consider to be my well vodkas, and I keep a bottle of one, if not both, on my bar at all times. After that, where the St. Germain's is now, which is not a white liquor by the way, I normally have a bottle of gin. This is my recently empty bottle, so I do have to replace that. And then I always have something infusing on my bar at all times, generally vodka. So right now I'm infusing some jalapenos and vodka. I do love spicy cocktails. And I had a couple of jalapenos in my garden that were ready to come off the plant. So I just plucked them off, cut them up, threw them in some vodka, a pint of vodka a couple of days ago. And as you can see, it has a slightly little green tinge there, so I'm pretty sure that is super hot, and I'm going to decant that and get those peppers out of here probably as soon as I wrap up this video. So next section is my dark liquor section. Again, I'm not a heavy dark liquor drinker, especially not in the summer or springtime. I am experimenting more with brown liquor. But right now I just have a bottle of, what is that? That is White Walker by Johnny Walker. As you can see, it's Game of Thrones, and 100% of the reason why I have that bottle is because it's Game of Thrones labeled. So big Game of Thrones fans here. But actually, I don't think that's very bad tasting. I've actually been enjoying that, and it's actually pretty tasty, but I don't use it for cocktails. And then another one of my favorite whiskeys, actually this is probably my favorite whiskey, is the Nakia coffee grain whiskey. This is a Japanese whiskey. It is very potent, it is very powerful. It is definitely not something you will ever take a shot of. This is a sipper. A little bit goes a long way. I do not make cocktails with that either. I drink this neat. If you never had that, please try it. I think you'll be surprised. And again, I'm not a brown liquor drinker, and I actually love that. Now, the second bottle I'm missing on my bar that would make this complete, which would normally be right here, is a bottle of Bullet whiskey. Now, Bullet whiskey is what I consider to be my well whiskey for my bar, and that's what I use to make cocktails with. If anyone comes over and want a brown-based cocktail, if they want a Manhattan or an old-fashioned, I use Bullet. And I also just created a new signature drink for a photo shoot that I worked on a couple of weeks ago called Sir Tea, and the base of that was Bullet. So next, we go to my liqueur section. So I am a big cocktail drinker. So I tend to have lots of liqueurs and whatnot on my bar, depending upon what I'm making, what I'm feeling like. So I got some Kahlua. That's mostly here for my friends who come over on Sundays when they want a little something extra in their coffee. They can have some Kahlua. I have some Drambuie there. I'm not a big fan of this because I don't like the taste of licorice, but there is a drink called the Bee's Knees that I love with it in there. I mean, it is so good. And I one day might, if I haven't featured it already on my blog, which I think I actually have, I may do another feature with it. It is delicious. But you can also make it's a Scotch-based drink called a Rusty Nail. I have a friend who likes that. I think she's weird, but that's one of her favorite drinks, so she likes it. So that's there pretty much. She comes over and wants to have one. I have some stuff on hand to make it. One of my favorite little liqueurs back there is called Creme De Violette. It's purple. And basically that's the main thing you use it for, is for its color. So when I'm making lavender cocktails or just wanting to do something a little bit springy, I add no more than 1/4 of an ounce of that, and it gives your cocktails a really nice, pretty purple lilac color. Then I have some more standard liqueurs here. I have some Grand Marnier. I use that a lot in my sangrias. I have Cointreau, which I do love, but this is a blood orange. And then I have the regular orange Cointreau in the back there. This is a bottle of fire water that I got from a friend when he visited Colombia. I think I won this in a Christmas party swap we did about 3 years ago. So that's my bottle of Colombia fire water. There's my Becherovka, which is like the national spirit of Prague. You got my Havana Club 3 that I got back from Cuba, and I bought back the Havana Club 7. Now this one I absolutely adore. I have enough for about maybe 2 or 3 drinks left, so I'm trying to save it and preserve it. But this is a rum that is aged in barrels, and you can drink this neat, and it is so good. It's also perfect pairing for cigars. Some very tasty and delicious orange tequila from Mexico. And then I have a Brugal rum from the Dominican Republic. Pretty tasty stuff. And then also from the Dominican Republic, I have my really pretty painted glass. Oh, I'm sorry, painted jar. I did a tour of the Pirate Rum Factory. And one of the things about the Pirate Rum Factory is they're known for their painted bottles. So if you go visit, while you're there, you'll see the artists there, and they're actually sitting there painting bottles. And I may drop in a couple of pictures so you can see some of the other bottles while I was there. This is my favorite painted bottle that I brought back from the DR. It's done completely in black and white, and it's a beach scene, and I love it. And it had chinola rum in it, which is passion fruit. Chinola is their word for passion fruit. Also from the DR, a couple of bottles of Mama Juana. We'll talk about that later, because you just have to know the Mama Juana to know what Mama Juana is, and I'm not getting into that right now. The rest of my bar, wine. And this is the third reason why my bar is only 85% full. I have enough space to hold 12 bottles of wine on my wine bar. I currently have 2 bottles of wine. That bottle at the bottom is actually overflow of a liquor that another friend left at my house. Normally I have at least 8 to 9 bottles of wine on my bar at the time. My top row is normally the row that's full. I keep my top row for my Prosecco and my champagne. I love mimosas. If you follow me on Instagram, you know pretty much every Sunday is Sunday mimosa. If I had more wine on my bar, if I had a bottle of Hendrick's and if I had a bottle of a Bullet, my bar would be 100% stocked. But as is, it's still, I think it's still pretty good. I can, like, as I said, I can pretty much still make anything I want to make right now. So leave me a comment below on what you consider to be a fully stocked bar from your standpoint. Like, what are some of your basics? What are some of your essentials that you keep on your bar?